If you built your pool without a heater because you thought that they were too expensive to operate, I've got good news for you. Pool heaters have become insanely efficient recently. This AQUASTRONG Inverter pool heat pump not only heats your pool efficiently, it can cool it too. Before I get started, quick thanks to AQUASTRONG for sending this out to me, and I promise I'm going to show you the full install process in just a few minutes. But before I do, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about what makes inverter heat pumps like this one so much more efficient, and how much you might expect to spend operating one compared to traditional style gas and electric pool heaters. Now, for a long time, pool heaters had a reputation, and honestly, it was deserved. Gas heaters are fast, but they're expensive to run, and traditional electric heaters can be even worse when it comes to efficiency. So a lot of people, including myself, when they built their pool, just skipped them altogether, or if they did install them, they really just used them occasionally. That's where inverter heat pump technology changes things. Instead of generating heat directly like a gas heater, it pulls heat from the air and transfers it to the water in your pool. That's already more efficient, but the inverter side is what really makes the difference. Older heat pumps basically run at full power or they're off. This one adjusts its output constantly based on demand. So once your pool hits temperature, it just maintains it instead of constantly cycling on and off. They rate this unit at up to 15.8 COP, which basically means for every unit of electricity it uses, you're getting multiple units of heat back. So what does it actually cost to run? For a typical residential pool, most inverter heat pump systems are going to fall between the $50 and $150 a month range to maintain temperature. Now that's a big range, but that's because it depends on your climate, how warm you keep your pool, and whether or not you keep your pool covered. To make that a little more real, if you've got a 15 to 20,000 gallon pool and you're just maintaining temperature, you might be in the $40 to $120 a month range in a moderate climate. But if you're trying to heat it up quickly or you're losing heat overnight without a cover, then that number can climb pretty fast, because heating a pool without a pool cover is kind of like heating your home without a roof. And just for a little context, gas heaters are often in the $200 to $500 a month range to run, sometimes more. So this is on a completely different level in terms of operating cost. Even something like raising your pool's temperature by 10 degrees might only cost in the neighborhood of $10 to $20 in electricity with a heat pump like this, depending on your rates. But your actual cost is always going to come down to your electricity rate, your weather, and how you use your pool. I'm using averages, so think of these as ballpark numbers, not exact. Now, as far as installation goes, it's pretty straightforward as long as you already have basic pool plumbing, which most of us do. They do include multiple adapter options, which helps whether you're running hose connections or hard PVC. We will be running PVC. You're basically plumbing this inline after your filter system. So my water comes in here and comes out here. And then you're powering it with a 220 volt connection. We're actually turning this filter around just to make everything fit a little better, just based on where we're placing it. You'll have to level off a spot for it if you don't already have a pad, or you can buy one of those plastic ones, or you can just do what I did here and make yourself one. So the first thing that you're going to need for installation is you need 220 volt electricity. We were lucky enough that we actually had 220 running to this booster pump, which we no longer use. We got rid of the pressure side cleaner, don't use this anymore. And so this electricity was available. We installed a different breaker to accommodate this and ran thicker gauged wire. We could fish the wire through the conduit that was already there. That made the job a lot easier, even though we still hired an electrician to do all the actual connections and everything. Now, instead of that 220 going to that pump that we were no longer using, you can follow it from here, and it's connected down here. Forgot to mention that you're going to definitely want to ground this too, and this is going to a ground rod that is driven 8 feet into the ground. This is the part where I tell you that if you're not comfortable with electricity, you should hire a qualified electrician, which is exactly what we did. Because in my case, I actually changed a breaker and ran some thicker wire. So let me say it again. If you're not comfortable with electricity, please hire a qualified electrician. I'm not a qualified electrician, and I don't play a qualified electrician on YouTube. One more important detail on installation. You want this installed after your filter, but before any chlorination equipment like this tablet chlorinator or salt cell. The reason is these systems can create really high concentrations of chlorine right at that point in the plumbing, and you don't want that running directly into your heater. Keeping the heater upstream helps protect the heater exchanger and extend the life of the unit. And if you're using a chlorinator, a check valve after the heater is also a really good idea to prevent any backflow of highly chlorinated water. So you see everything that I have going on here and how close all this is. That's why we're going to turn this filter around the other way, and it's going to be much easier to plumb it exactly like it needs to be. Every pool setup is a little different, so here's a quick plumbing montage. I'll walk you through exactly how this is set up and why in just a second, though. Now, I don't have any friends that are plumbers, but I do have a friend that's an engineer, and I was really grateful to have his help because he is really good at planning stuff like this out, and it probably saved me about 50 trips back and forth to the hardware store. And since we were already working on the plumbing, we took the opportunity to correct some problems that the pool builder had left us in the first place, like this valve that would never close. There was an elbow that came out and actually impeded this valve. So now we've turned this around. I want to make sure that I explain this correctly. And for those of you that already know all about pools, this is going to be very boring. But to the average DIYer who may not know what he's doing here and is trying to tackle this on his own, hopefully this will help you out. This is the water that's coming out of your pump and going into your filter. So this line, if you follow it, is going into your filter housing right here. So it's coming in from your pool into the pump and being pumped out from the pump into your filter housing. From that point, after it's filtered, it's then traveling through here and going into your heater here. So this is what I was talking about when I said you want to put it into the heater after the filter before the chlorinator. The chlorinator is still back here. And as you can see, the water that's traveling out goes all the way here to the chlorinator before it goes back to the pool. They come with fittings that you can glue into the PVC, but this is just a quick connect. Doing just about anything with your plumbing will change your flow slightly. We added some bends, but we got rid of some bends also. So it should be fairly similar to where we were at before. You can always put a flow meter on it if you want to check your actual flow. And this is your condensation hose. This is actually nothing more than just a slip-on hose. It just slips on to connect to a fitting underneath. And this will just drain out down the hill. As you can see, we put 3 valves on here, and the water comes in and it goes out. It's going through here. But there are times where you may not want water going through there. Maybe you know that you'll have some abnormally high chemical levels in your pool for a while, and you don't want that going through your heater. So you can bypass this heater by opening this up and closing these. Hopefully this little part of the video has helped you out if you're thinking about tackling this as a DIY project. So what these are showing us is the water is coming in at 68 degrees and then it's going back out at 70 degrees right now. And I've just started this unit. It's been on for literally minutes, less than 5 minutes, and it's made a 2-degree bump in the water that is returning to the pool. Where something like this makes a lot of sense is if you actually want to use your pool more. Early spring, late fall, or even if you just want to take the edge off on a cool night, or you're having a pool party and it's not quite the temperature that you want it to be, that's where an inverter heat pump like this really starts to pay off. And the cooling feature is something that people barely ever talk about, but in really hot climates, like where I'm at now, pools can actually get too warm. This gives you the ability to bring that temperature back down to something that's actually comfortable. Another really cool feature is the Smart app. You can control it with the touchscreen, but you can also do pretty much everything from the Smart app. You can set timers, adjust the temperature, switch modes, all from within the app. One thing I noticed about this unit right away is how quiet it was compared to traditional units. I mean, it's not silent, but it's definitely not something that's going to dominate your backyard. Turn my pump down so that you can hear this unit. I can hear it. It's definitely not as loud as the pump is on even a medium speed. Now, of course, there is an initial investment for the unit itself, and that will vary depending on the size of your pool. But that does mean you'll want to think about how often you'll actually use it. If you're only heating your pool a couple times a year, it probably doesn't make sense. But if you want to extend your swim season by a few months or keep your pool at a constant temperature, that's where something like this becomes a lot more practical. If you do decide to go this route, a couple of quick tips that'll help you get the most out of it and maximize your savings. Use a pool cover whenever you're not swimming is probably the biggest one. Try to run it during the warmest parts of the day whenever it's possible. And don't try to heat your pool like it's a hot tub. Small temperature increases are way more efficient and much easier to maintain. Overall, this is one of those areas where the technology has really changed the conversation quite a bit. Pool heaters used to be something that a lot of people avoided just due to the operating costs, and now they're actually a pretty realistic option if you want to get a lot more use out of your pool. Now, before I go, I do have to thank the guys that helped me install it, Bryant, our electrician, and of course my friend Philip, who did the vast majority of the plumbing on the project. Thank you guys. And also I want to thank AQUASTRONG for sending us the unit. We couldn't have made the video without that, of course. Now, if you're considering one of these units, I'll drop a link below in the description. Using those links helps us make content like this, and it doesn't cost you any extra. I really appreciate those of you that use them to make purchases or even just to check pricing. Thanks for watching, and remember, belly flops build character.